So this just happened today. Against my better judgment at the beginning of the month, I got a Tinder. I matched with a few guys, etc. One of them is James. We ended up texting each other and he seemed pretty chill, and pretty into me. He's a decent looking guy, and we seemed to click. He had apparently been in a relatively abusive relationship with a woman and he was looking to start over. According to him, she had hit him with a frying pan and pepper sprayed him once. He kept going on about how crazy she was. Alright, it happens. We went out to the movies this past Friday and I had a great time. We ended up talking for a few hours and we hit it off pretty well. I asked about the ex because I was a bit curious as to why he'd stay with someone like that. He didn't say anything positive about her. Just that she was crazy, had mental illnesses and didn't take her meds, that kind of stuff. She had tried to baby trap him but she had a miscarriage. He expressed relief that she didn't end up with the kid. He said he had felt obligated to her. Again, I get that. In all, I had a good time. This morning rolls around and he tells me that he had hooked up with his ex last night and that he was going to try and work things out with her. Mildly insulting that I lost out to an abusive chick, but whatever. I tell him it's cool. He then a few hours later texted me to say that she was crazy and he thought she was changing but she wasn't, blah blah. He kept asking if he could see me. He was being very pushy about wanting to see me today. He begged for 5 minutes of my time so he could explain to me. I politely told him that I didn't want to be involved with someone who was so clearly hung up on his ex. This is where it got nuts. He admitted he still was, but that he wanted to see me today so I could meet her and she could determine if I was better for him than she was, and that she wanted him to be happy because he and I had a connection. I flipped after that, told him that the fact he needed his ex to determine who was right for him was absolutely nuts and that is not what love is, and that I wanted no part of it. His ex started texting me after that, and it was non-stop insults and incoherent shit that made no sense. She also dropped the bomb that she was his wife. I told her to fuck off basically and blocked the number. I went on Tinder to message him where I called him a piece of shit and if he was intelligent he should leave her and never message me again. He started to harass me saying that I was miserable because they have a beautiful love together and all this crazy shit. He then went on to say my wife knows where you work, I hope she doesn't do anything rash, and I told him if that was a threat I would gladly go to the police. He then said that she's been to jail before, she's not afraid, and that she loves him so much she'd fuck anyone up and risk jail for him, that she'd kill my friends if they tried to protect me, that she's armed and dangerous. I told him goodbye, reported him, and deleted my Tinder account. I did go to the police tonight, but since it wasn't a direct threat, they can't do much. The cop thinks that James was more or less full of shit and just trying to scare me, since some people love getting off on that shit. He said I did the right thing by blocking him and reporting him, and said I should just keep my eyes open, and alert the people at my job. Scary thing is, James seemed perfectly normal. But he lied about being married, how he felt towards his wife, and he flipped like a switch. His excuse for not being upfront about being married was that they were going to get a divorce. He seemed so docile and unassuming, and the hatred and aggressive attitude was insane. I have to honestly wonder what would have happened had I gone to talk for 5 minutes. I'm kinda concerned since they do know where I work, but if either of them try anything then the cops can actually nail them. What a weekend. Hey everyone. I was scrolling through the stories here when I realized that I have a pretty good one. It was pretty scary but also kind of funny, so forgive me if the tone isn't creepy enough for Let's Not Meet. This incident happened a few years ago when I was a college student in Baltimore, Maryland. I'd found a nice third-floor apartment with 2 friends in a beautiful old building. Being young and naive, we'd often leave the door to our apartment unlocked while we were home, assuming that the building's locking entrance door would do the trick. Of course, unless all the tenants made sure to close it entirely on their way out, that door could remain just ajar enough to not lock. Anyone who's lived in a not-so-great area of a city probably knows where this is going. It was really early in the morning and my housemate had just left for work. I was fast asleep in bed. I'm a small person and, during the winter, like to cocoon myself head to toe in a lot of thick comforters. Anyways, the first thing I remember is waking up, super groggy, to the sound of somebody in my room. It was pretty dark but I could make out the tall, slim figure of a person who was sort of drifting around by the side of my bedroom. In my half-asleep state I assumed that it was my housemate. We were close and would often borrow things, an umbrella, a pen, etc., from each other freely, so I figured they were just poking around for something. I promptly emerged from the blanket cocoon and asked in my infamous morning person's super cheerful voice, "Can I help you find anything, babe?" The figure turned and jumped about a foot in the air. I realized pretty quickly and with a sinking feeling that it was not my housemate but, instead, some tall man I'd never seen in my life. I then realized that he hadn't even known I was in the bed/room/apartment at all. He muttered something, I think, about how he thought this was his friend's apartment. I just kind of stared, bewildered, and told him, "Oh no, sorry, this is my apartment." It was very surreal and I don't think I fully realized at that point that I was being robbed. With that, he turned and pretty much bolted out through the living room. I learned about 10 minutes later that he'd grabbed my laptop on his way out, so at least he managed to find something. Suffice to say, lesson learned, we kept all doors to the place locked at all times from that day forward. My friends and I still laugh about it, but I can't help but think about how it could have been a much worse situation if A, it wasn't just some guy committing a crime of opportunity, and B, I hadn't scared him off with my skills as the world's most considerate home invasion hostess. Yeesh. Let's not meet again, burglars of Baltimore. But if we do, can I get you anything to drink? I was recently reminded of this encounter by my mother. If she hadn't brought it up, I probably would have gone the rest of my life without thinking of this incident, but once I did then all these memories came flooding back. My family traveled from the Midwest to the East Coast almost every year. We usually drove through Canada to New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and then up to Maine, where my dad's family is from. We stopped at various tourist spots and resorts while on the trip. When I was somewhere around 6 or 7 years old, we were staying at a family-style resort in New Hampshire. It was a very large complex with 4 buildings full of hotel rooms, all facing each other with a parking lot to the left, a small park/picnicking area in the middle and the outdoor pool with a fence around it to the right. Each building had 2 levels with outdoor stairs and each room had a door that went outside, not into a hallway. There was a path from the bottom of the stairs through the small park to the pool. I have always been quick to get ready, so while my mom, dad, and sister, 1 year older, were getting ready to go to the pool, I was getting antsy and wanted to go check out the tacky water slide tacked onto the side of the pool. I remember my dad being busy and distracted while I said I'm going out to the pool and began walking out and down the stairs. You could see the park and pool from our balcony, but my dad wanted me to wait. I did not and proceeded to walk by myself out to the pool. I was walking along the path through the little park when 2 big arms picked me up and started pulling me back. This is what I have the sharpest memory of, my purple jelly sandals being lifted off the ground under me. I didn't immediately turn around because I just figured it was my dad dragging me back to the room, mad that I had disobeyed him. I just sighed and accepted my fate as being in trouble. Then, I heard my dad in the distance yell, "Hey, get off my daughter," or something similar, and so I finally turned to see who the hell was holding me. It was some guy, really tall, really thin, wearing dark colors. He had a car that was pulled up right to the park, not parked in a parking spot or anything, only about 20 feet away. I looked and saw my dad barreling down the motel stairs holding my sister's water noodle and wearing his bright green neon water shorts. This was probably 96. The dude saw my dad, dropped me, and then dove into the car, which promptly took off. I cried because I had scraped my leg in the fall. My dad chased the car for a short while, but they quickly picked up speed and were gone. I have no idea if the license plate was recorded or the cops were called. We did continue to go to the pool and play, but I remember that my dad was in a, rightfully, bad mood the rest of the afternoon, and I couldn't get him to play in the pool with me. He usually was a big reader, but he just sat in a chair peering around the parking lot and looking miffed the rest of the afternoon. Who knows what would have happened if my dad hadn't been walking out behind me / looking out the window. I was honestly probably 10 seconds away from being thrown in that car and taken God knows where. So, creepy dude in New Hampshire, let's not meet again.